is it, the final box office prediction video of 2018. To wrap this up, we've got a recap of Fantasy Movie League to do before rolling into the very last weekend of competition there. But for last weekend, we had 6 predictions with Perri players. Get that perfect lineup. Those 6 players are a no-nonsense picture show, the Maverickplex, Anthony Cineplex, BBGG, Twitter at Phoenix Rising, and the Lesser Goods Cineplex. Congratulations to all of you. As for where I stand at this point in time, I did okay last weekend. I wound up in 50th place last weekend, and I think that brought me to 57th overall in the league. But actually, BBGG, this perfect lineup from last weekend, brought that player up to number 1 overall, so congratulations. Good luck holding on to that top spot. We're going to see what happens with that one last weekend before we roll through the rest of award season on Fantasy Movie League. Now it is time for my own recaps for my top 5, and I actually did go 5 for 5 last weekend, but I was way off on a certain prediction. But before I get to that one, we've got to cover the movie that got the number 1 spot last weekend, and of course, it was Aquaman with a very solid $67.4 million start. Then it was Mary Poppins Returns at number 2, as I predicted, but it came nowhere close to the number that I suggested. It only made $23.5 million for its first weekend with a mere $5,751 per theater average, a lower per theater average than Bumblebee, which scored a $6,100 per theater average and took $21.7 million total last weekend. Then Spiderman Into the Spiderverse took the number 4 spot with $16.6 million, and then finally The Mule closed out the top 5 with another $9.5 million. Rolling into this weekend's predictions now, I am surprising myself a little bit with my number 5 pick. I'm going with Holmes and Watson. There is a chance we could wind up seeing The Mule in this spot, but I keep thinking back to the movie Daddy's Home, which came out Christmas time as well, and how well that movie did back in 2015. It opened with $38.7 million, and I don't think Holmes and Watson has any chance of getting that number, but I do think we could see a performance, maybe something similar to the movie Sisters, which opened with about $14 million. So that's right where I think Holmes and Watson is going to land. I think it's going to close out its first weekend in theaters with $14 million. Moving on over to that number 4 spot, I think this one is a toss-up. And I think that toss-up is going to be between Bumblebee and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. But you know what? I'm giving the edge to SpiderVerse, so of course that makes Bumblebee my number 4 of the weekend. But even though I'm bringing Bumblebee down a spot, I still think it's gonna hold pretty strong. You're gonna hear me bring this up a lot during this video, but what tends to happen this time of year is we see either very small percent changes, or we see movies make even more money than the previous weekend. And while I don't think we're gonna see a boost in Bumblebee's profits, I do think there's a really good chance it's gonna see a very minimal drop. Taking a cue of how all the money was divvied up this time last year, I'm looking at the number $18 million for Bumblebee's second weekend in theaters, and that paves the way to a really strong weekend for a movie like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, because looking at current ticket sales, it looks like Spider-Verse is far outpacing Bumblebee at this point. So there we go, moving on to my number 3 now, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Again, I'll point out, it's either minimal drops or money-making bumps, and I have a feeling that Spider-Verse is gonna be one of those movies to not just get a little bump, I think it's gonna make a good deal more than it made last weekend in theaters, and I'm actually being drawn to the movie Sing. Sing came out right about the same time of year back in 2016, and then in weekend 2 of its run, it saw a 21.7% increase, and I think that Spider-Man is looking like it could pull off the same exact percent change. So if I apply that to Spider-Verse's earnings last weekend, we're looking at another $20 million for this movie. Now moving on over to number 2, that is where I have Mary Poppins Returns. Initially, I found myself comparing this one to Pitch Perfect 3, which opened right about the same time last year, and it made roughly $20 million, which isn't all that far off from what Mary Poppins Returns made its first weekend in theaters. Then weekend 2, it dropped 15.6%. But the thing is, Those current ticket sales caught my eye, and it looks like Mary Poppins Returns could be in pretty good shape this weekend, so that drew me on over to Sing, which we already covered. Sing did open a lot bigger than Mary Poppins Returns, but given those current ticket sales, I don't just want to give it Sing's weekend 2% change of a 21.7% boost. I want to bring that number up even higher to, I think, to 25%. And if that's the increase Mary Poppins Returns winds up seeing this weekend, a holiday weekend that's going to see a whole lot of family foot traffic in theaters, this movie could wind up making another $29 million. And now finally, we've got our top spot for the weekend, and there is no doubt in my mind that this time it's going to Aquaman. I'm actually going to take a look at Last Jedi right now. Yes, I know this time last year, Last Jedi was going into weekend 3 of its run, whereas Aquaman is only going into weekend 2, but Christmas weekend, Last Jedi wound up making $71.6 million, which is fairly similar to where Aquaman kicked off its run, so I've got my eye on that 26.6% dip that The Last Jedi saw this same weekend last year, and I'm thinking there is no chance that Aquaman is going to see anything much higher than that. So if I take that 26% dip and apply it to Aquaman's opening profits, we're talking about another $50 million for Aquaman this weekend. And of course, that brings us into our recap. We've got Aquaman topping the charts with $50 million. Mary Poppins Returns taking the 2 spot with another $29 million. Then at number 3, it's Spiderman Into the Spider-Verse with $20 million. Bumblebee coming in at number 4 with $18 million. And then Holmes and Watson rounding out my top 5 with $14 million. All right, guys, that's it. But now, of course, it is your turn. Put your predictions in the comment section of this video and head on over to Fantasy Movie League. Lock your lineups right there. Just in case you are new to the league, you can find the URL and the password to sign up for the Predictions with Perri League in the description section of this video. Now, of course, we've got a big group of Patreon shoutouts right now. They are going to 6 people on the team, and those people are Jack, Ian, Luke, Billy, Neil, and Nathan. Thank you guys so much for being here, for being part of the campaign. I know I say this a lot, but it's that time of year when you're looking back and you're thinking of all the wonderful things in your life that you're so grateful for. And I can honestly say that one of the things on my list is the Patreon community. So to everyone who's a part of it, really, it means a lot to me. So thank you for being here. Thank you guys for watching this box office prediction video. I am not done for 2018, so keep an eye on the channel for even more year-end lists.